The suitcase beside my front door belonged to a man I had not lived with for 11 years. It was old and dark blue. One wheel was missing, and rainwater ran down its side. Behind it stood my former husband, Daniel, with grey hair, tired eyes, and no wedding ring. "I know I should not be here," he said. But I had nowhere else to go. I held the door with one hand and stared at him. For a moment, I was 49 years old. Then I was 38 again, standing in the same doorway as he left our family for another woman. Before that night, I believed we had a good marriage. Daniel and I met in a small bookstore cafe when I was 22. I was sitting near the window, trying to read while rain hit the glass. He pointed at the novel in my hands and smiled. "Is it really as sad as people say?" "Worse," I answered. "You should not read it unless you enjoy crying." He laughed and sat at the next table. We talked until the cafe closed. Daniel was training to become a teacher. I worked in a flower shop and dreamed of owning one someday. We both loved quiet mornings, old songs, and long walks outside the city. A year later, we married in my aunt's garden. There were only 30 guests. The chairs did not match, and the cake leaned to one side, but I had never felt happier. Daniel held my hands and promised that we would face every difficult day together. I believed him completely. We rented a little house in Brookfield. The roof made strange sounds when the wind was strong, and the kitchen was too small for 2 people. Still, it felt like home. Our first daughter, Sophie, was born 3 years later. Her sister, Chloe, came 2 years after that. Daniel was a patient father. He read stories in different voices and let the girls paint his fingernails. When they were afraid of storms, he sat between their beds until they fell asleep. He did not often buy expensive gifts. His love appeared in smaller ways. He warmed my car on cold mornings. He left the last piece of cake for me. When I worked late, he waited awake with a cup of tea. For many years, I thought that kind of love could not disappear. When Sophie was 14 and Chloe was 12, Daniel left teaching. He accepted a training job at a large business in the city. The salary was much better. He bought new clothes and began traveling for work. At first, I was proud of him. "You deserve this," I told him. But the new job slowly changed our home. Daniel came back later each evening. He often ate alone because the girls and I had already finished dinner. Even when he was sitting beside me, his mind seemed far away. His phone was always in his hand. One night, I reached across the sofa to move it away from a cup of tea. Daniel quickly took it from me. "Careful," he said. His voice was sharper than usual. "I was only moving it." "I know. I just have important work information on it." He placed the phone in his pocket and left the room. That small moment stayed in my mind. Soon, Daniel began taking calls outside. He changed the password on his phone. He stopped asking about my day and forgot simple things, like Chloe's school performance and our wedding anniversary. Whenever I asked what was wrong, he gave the same answer. "Work is difficult right now." I wanted to believe him because the truth felt too frightening. Then one Thursday afternoon, a woman entered my flower shop. Her name was Karen. We had been friends since our daughters started school. She usually filled every room with energy, but that day she stood near the door and would not meet my eyes. "Rachel, can we talk somewhere private?" I took her into the small office behind the shop. She sat down but kept her bag on her lap. "I saw Daniel yesterday." My stomach tightened. "Where?" "At a restaurant near the train station." I waited for her to continue. "He was with a woman," she said. "They were sitting very close. Maybe she works with him." Karen looked at me with tears in her eyes. They were holding hands. The room became strangely quiet. I could hear the refrigerator that kept the flowers cool. I could also hear my own breathing. "Did he see you?" "No." "Are you sure it was Daniel?" "I wish I were wrong." I thanked her and returned to the front of the shop. For the next hour, I tied ribbons around flowers without knowing what I was doing. I made mistakes on 2 orders and gave a customer the wrong change. At 5 o'clock, I closed early. Daniel arrived home after 9. He smelled of rain and a perfume I did not wear. He walked into the kitchen and stopped when he saw me waiting at the table. "What happened?" he asked. I looked at the man I had loved for 16 years. "Who is she?" His face changed. He did not ask what I meant. He did not pretend to be confused. He only placed his keys on the table and sat across from me. That was when I knew Karen had told me the truth. Daniel rubbed his hands together. "Her name is Melissa." "How long?" "Almost 8 months." 8 months. I thought about Christmas morning, Chloe's birthday, and the weekend Daniel said he was visiting a client. I had lived beside him while another life grew in secret. "Do you love her?" Daniel looked down. "Yes." The word was soft, but it cut through me. "What about us?" "I care about you, Rachel. I always will." "Do not say that." My voice shook. "You do not do this to someone you care about." Daniel closed his eyes. I never planned for it to happen. But it happened again and again for 8 months. He had no answer. I asked him whether he wanted to end the relationship and try to repair our marriage. He remained silent for so long that I understood before he spoke. "I'm leaving," he finally said. The girls were asleep upstairs. Daniel packed one suitcase and placed it near the door. He looked around the living room as if he were saying goodbye to a hotel room. Then he reached for the handle. "Tell Sophie and Chloe that I love them. You can tell them yourself." I don't know what to say. Neither do I. He opened the door. For one foolish second, I expected him to turn around. I thought he might drop the suitcase, apologize, and choose us. He did not. The door closed, and his car disappeared into the wet street. The next morning, I told our daughters. Sophie stared at me without speaking. Chloe began crying and asked when her father was coming home. I could not promise that he would. The divorce took 7 painful months. Daniel rented an apartment with Melissa and visited the girls twice a month. Sophie usually refused to see him. Chloe went, but she often returned quiet and angry. I tried not to speak badly about their father. It was one of the hardest things I had ever done. He made a choice that hurt us, I told them. But you are allowed to love him. I was not sure I believed my own words. For months after the divorce became final, an envelope arrived at the flower shop. The paper was thick and cream-colored. My name was written across the front in Daniel's handwriting. Inside was a wedding invitation. Daniel and Melissa were getting married in 6 weeks. I read the date several times. It was the day before what would have been our 17th wedding anniversary. At the bottom of the invitation, Daniel had added one short sentence. "I hope one day you will understand." That evening, Sophie found the invitation on the kitchen table. She read it, then looked at me. "Are you going to let him do this?" she asked. I looked at my daughter's angry face and realized she was not only asking about the wedding. She was asking what we were going to do with the life he had left behind. I picked up the invitation and placed it back inside the envelope. "We are not going to stop the wedding," I said. Sophie crossed her arms. "Why not? He left us for her. Now they want us to smile and act happy." I did not say we had to smile. "Then what are we supposed to do?" I looked toward the stairs. Chloe was in her room, but I knew she could probably hear us. "We are going to keep living," I said. "That is what we are going to do." Sophie shook her head. "That sounds too easy." It was not easy. Nothing about those months was easy. I woke each morning with a heavy feeling in my chest. For a few seconds, I forgot that Daniel had left. Then I saw the empty side of the bed, and the truth returned. At work, I smiled at customers and arranged flowers for birthdays, weddings, and anniversaries. Sometimes, a man came into the shop to buy roses for his wife. He would ask which color meant love, and I would answer as if love were simple. Then I would go into the back room and cry where no one could see me. Karen visited often. She brought coffee, helped with deliveries, and sometimes sat beside me without speaking. One afternoon, she found me staring at a wedding order. There were white roses, green leaves, and small blue flowers. "You can ask someone else to make it," she said. "No. You do not have to be strong every minute." "I am not being strong. I am working." Karen leaned against the table. "Sometimes working is how people hide." I looked at her. "And sometimes working is how people survive." She smiled sadly. "That is also true." Daniel called the girls the week before his wedding. He wanted them to attend. Sophie refused before he finished speaking. Chloe was less certain. "He is still my dad," she told me later. "But if I go, will you be angry?" I took her hand. "No. Will you be sad?" "Yes," I answered honestly. "But my sadness is not your responsibility." Chloe looked down. "Melissa asked me to be part of the ceremony." I felt my body become cold. "What did you say?" I said I needed to think. I wanted to tell her not to go. I wanted to protect her from the woman who had helped break our family. But Chloe was 13. She loved her father, and she was afraid of losing him. "You should decide for yourself," I said. On the morning of the wedding, Sophie stayed in her room. Chloe wore a pale blue dress and stood in front of the mirror. She looked nervous. "You look beautiful," I told her. She turned toward me. "Are you sure this is okay?" "No," I said. "But I am sure you should not feel guilty." Daniel arrived to pick her up. He did not come inside. I watched through the window as Chloe walked toward his car. Daniel hugged her. Then he looked at the house. For 1 second, our eyes met through the glass. He gave a small nod. I stepped away from the window. That afternoon, I went to the flower shop even though it was closed. I cleaned shelves that were already clean. I cut dead leaves from healthy plants. Around 4 o'clock, Karen appeared with 2 sandwiches. "I thought you might be here," she said. "How did you know?" "Because your car was not at home." We sat on the floor behind the counter and ate in silence. At the same time, Daniel stood in a bright room and promised another woman that he would love her forever. I wondered if he used the same words he had once said to me. When Chloe came home that evening, her eyes were red. "What happened?" I asked. She placed her bag on the floor. "Nothing." "Chloe." She began crying. Dad kept calling Melissa his family. I pulled her into my arms. "You are his family too." It did not feel like it. That was the first time I understood that Daniel had not only left me. He had broken something inside our daughters too. Over the next year, his visits became less regular. At first, he called every week. Then every 2 weeks. Later, he sometimes forgot completely. There was always a reason. Work was busy. Melissa was sick. They had plans. The car had a problem. Sophie stopped expecting him. Chloe kept hoping. Each missed visit hurt her again. One Friday, she sat beside the front window for almost an hour. Daniel had promised to take her to a concert. At 7:30, the phone rang. I answered. "I can't make it tonight," Daniel said. I turned toward Chloe. She was watching me. "You need to tell her yourself." There was a pause. "Rachel, please. Melissa's son needs help with something. Your daughter has been waiting for you." "I know. I will make it up to her." "You keep saying that." I handed the phone to Chloe. She listened without speaking. Then she ended the call and placed the phone on the table. "He chose her son," she said. I did not know how to answer. That night, I took both girls to the concert. We bought cheap seats near the back and sang every song, even the ones we did not know well. On the drive home, Chloe rested her head against the window. "Mom." "Yes." "Do people stop loving you because they find someone better?" Sophie turned quickly. "Do not say that." But Chloe kept looking outside. I chose my words carefully. People sometimes make selfish choices. That does not mean the people they hurt are less valuable. Then why did Dad leave? Because he wanted something different. He thought it would make him happy. Did it? I do not know. For a long time, I believed Daniel's new life must be perfect. The pictures online showed dinners, holidays, and smiling faces. Melissa wore beautiful clothes. Daniel stood beside her with his hand around her waist. I saw photographs from a beach trip and a large house they bought outside the city. Meanwhile, I worried about bills and repaired things around our old house by myself. When the washing machine stopped working, I watched videos and tried to fix it. When the roof leaked, I placed a bucket under the water until I could pay someone to repair it. I hated Daniel for leaving me with all the small problems of life. But slowly, I became better at solving them. I learned to check the oil in my car. I painted the living room. I spoke with the bank and changed the house loan into my name. The first time I signed a paper as the only owner, my hand shook. Then I smiled. The house was no longer the place Daniel had left. It was mine. 2 years after the divorce, the owner of the flower shop decided to retire. She offered to sell the business to me. I cannot afford it, I said. You can pay me over time. Why would you trust me with that? She looked around the shop. Because you already care for this place as if it belongs to you. I thought about the risk for several days. Sophie was preparing for college. Chloe still needed braces. Money was already tight. Still, something inside me wanted to try. For most of my adult life, I had been Daniel's wife and the girl's mother. I loved those roles, but I had forgotten that I once had dreams of my own. I accepted the offer. The first year was difficult. I arrived before sunrise and often worked until evening. I made wedding flowers, funeral flowers, birthday baskets, and small gifts for lonely people. Sophie helped with the accounts. Chloe learned to make simple arrangements. We changed the name of the shop to Rachel's Garden. On the day the new sign went up, the 3 of us stood outside and took a photograph. For the first time since Daniel left, I did not feel like a woman whose husband had chosen someone else. I felt like myself. Several years passed. Sophie finished college and became a nurse. Chloe studied design and moved to another city. They both built their own lives, but we stayed close. Every Sunday, we spoke on the phone. Every holiday, they came home. Daniel appeared from time to time. He attended graduations and birthdays. He sent cards and gifts. His relationship with Sophie remained distant, but Chloe slowly allowed him back into her life. I was polite when I saw him. We talked about the girls, work, and the weather. We did not speak about our marriage. Then Sophie had a daughter named Emma. The first time I held my granddaughter, I felt something in me open again. Emma had Sophie's dark eyes and Daniel's smile. Daniel became a loving grandfather. He visited often and brought too many toys. When Emma was 3, she did not understand why her grandparents lived in different houses. "Grandpa loves Grandma," she once said. Everyone in the room became quiet. Daniel looked at me. I picked up Emma and kissed her cheek. "Grandpa and Grandma both love you," I said. It was the safest answer I could give. By the time Emma was 6, my life felt peaceful. The flower shop was doing well. I had good friends. My daughters were happy. I sometimes felt lonely, but I did not feel empty. I had dated 2 men after the divorce. Both were kind, but neither relationship became serious. I discovered that being alone was not the same as being abandoned. Then, one winter morning, Chloe called me. Her voice sounded strange. "Mom, did you hear about Dad?" "No. He and Melissa are having problems." I remained silent. "She moved out," Chloe continued. "Dad says she may not come back." "I am sorry to hear that." "Are you?" I looked through the shop window at the snow falling outside. "I do not want anyone to suffer." Chloe sighed. "He sounds terrible. He has friends. He will be all right." But Daniel was not all right. A month later, he lost his job. The company closed his department, and he had difficulty finding another position at his age. Then Melissa filed for divorce. Daniel tried to call me twice. I did not answer. I told myself his problems were no longer mine. Several weeks passed. On a Sunday evening, rain began falling hard against the windows. I had just made tea when someone knocked on the door. I opened it and saw Daniel. His grey hair was wet. His coat looked old. Beside him stood the damaged blue suitcase. He told me that Melissa had left him for another man. The house was in her name, and he had spent most of his savings during the divorce. He had been staying in a small hotel, but he could no longer pay for it. I only need a few days, he said, until I decide what to do. I should have closed the door. Instead, I looked at the man who had once left me in the rain and wondered why seeing him broken did not make me happy. You can use the guest room, I said. Daniel lowered his head. Thank you. He carried the suitcase inside. That first night, we barely spoke. I gave him clean towels and an extra blanket. He stood at the guest room door and looked at me. I know I do not deserve your help. No, I said. You do not. His face tightened, but he nodded. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. Daniel was in the kitchen. 2 cups sat on the table. I remembered how you like it, he said. I took the cup but did not drink. You can stay for 1 week. I understand. You will not bring your problems into the girls' lives. I won't. And do not think this means anything has changed between us. Daniel met my eyes. I know. But something had changed. Not in my heart. Not yet. The change was in the house. After 11 years of silence, the sound of Daniel's footsteps was moving through the rooms again. For the first few days, Daniel behaved like a careful guest. He woke early, folded his blanket, and cleaned the kitchen after breakfast. He repaired a loose step near the back door and replaced a broken light in the hallway. He did not ask me to thank him. He did not speak about the past unless I spoke first. But his presence changed my daily life. I heard him moving in the guest room at night. I saw his shoes beside the door. Sometimes, I entered the kitchen and found him standing in the exact place where he used to stand many years ago. Those moments made me angry. He seemed familiar, but he no longer belonged there. On the 4th evening, Sophie arrived without calling. She walked into the living room and stopped when she saw Daniel reading near the window. Her face became hard. What is he doing here? Daniel stood up. Sophie, I can explain. I asked Mom. I put down the flowers I was arranging. Your father needed a place to stay. So he came here. Only for a short time. Sophie looked at Daniel. You have a wife. Not anymore, he said quietly. Then go to a hotel. I was staying in one. Go back. Daniel lowered his eyes. I touched Sophie's arm, but she moved away. Mom, he left you. He forgot us. Now his second marriage has failed, and suddenly he remembers this house? I remember all of you every day, Daniel said. Sophie turned toward him. Remembering is not the same as being there. Daniel did not defend himself. That seemed to make her even angrier. You missed my graduation dinner because Melissa wanted to travel, she continued. You forgot Chloe's birthday twice. When Emma was born, you arrived 3 hours late because you were helping Melissa move furniture. I know. No, you do not know. Her voice shook. You always came after everything else. Daniel looked older than he had when he arrived. You are right, he said. Sophie stared at him. She had prepared herself for excuses, but he gave her none. I was selfish, he continued. I thought I could build a new life without losing the old one. I was wrong. You did not lose us, Sophie said. You left us. Then she walked out. I followed her to the front garden. Sophie. She stopped near her car but did not turn around. You should not have to take care of him, she said. I am not taking care of him. He will hurt you again. I will not let him. She finally faced me. You said that before. Her words were not cruel. They came from fear. I took her hand. I was younger then. I believed love meant trusting someone without limits. I do not believe that anymore. Then why is he inside your house? Because I wanted to open the door. Sophie looked confused. That does not mean I have opened my life to him. She hugged me before leaving, but her body was tense. When I returned inside, Daniel was standing in the hallway. I should go, he said. It is late. I have already caused enough trouble. You have 3 more days. He looked at me. Rachel, why did you let me in? I thought about the question. Because I did not want your worst day to change who I have become. He sat down slowly. I do not understand. When you left, I was full of anger. For years, I wanted you to feel the pain you gave me. Daniel's eyes moved toward the floor. And now I am feeling it. Yes. Does that make you happy? No. He looked surprised. I was surprised too. For many years, I had imagined Daniel returning with regret. In those dreams, I was beautiful, successful, and completely cold. He would beg for another chance, and I would close the door. But real life was different. There was no victory in seeing him weak. There was only a tired man in my living room and a past that could not be changed. The next morning, Daniel came with me to the flower shop. I can help carry the large boxes, he said. You do not need to. I know. He carried plants from the delivery truck and cleaned the storage room. When customers arrived, he stayed in the back. Around noon, an older woman entered the shop. Her husband had died the week before. She wanted flowers for his funeral but could not decide what to choose. I do not want anything too bright, she said. But he hated dark colors. I showed her white flowers with soft yellow roses. She touched one of the roses. He brought me yellow roses on our first date. Daniel was standing near the doorway. I saw his face change. The woman began telling us about her husband. They had been married for 46 years. They argued about money, food, and the temperature in the house. But every night, he checked the doors before bed, she said. He wanted me to feel safe. When she left, Daniel remained silent. Later, he said, I used to check our doors. Yes. I thought those small things did not matter. They mattered to me. He nodded. I did not understand what I had. His words made something rise inside me. You understood, I said. You simply wanted something else more. Daniel looked at me. That is worse, isn't it? Yes. He did not speak again. That evening, Chloe called. She had heard from Sophie that Daniel was staying with me. Is Dad okay? She asked. He is tired and worried, but he is safe. Can I talk to him? I gave Daniel the phone. He walked into the living room while I stayed in the kitchen. I could hear only a few words. I am sorry. No, it was not your fault. I should have called more. Yes, I remember. After 20 minutes, he returned the phone to me. His eyes were wet. What did she say? I asked. She said she spent years believing I loved Melissa's family more than I loved her. I waited. She was right. Daniel sat at the table. I kept telling myself I was doing my best. I was not. I was doing what was easiest. For the first time, his regret did not sound like a speech. It sounded honest. On the last day of the week, Daniel packed his suitcase. I found a room above a small repair shop, he told me. It is not much, but I can afford it. I felt relief. I also felt a quiet sadness that I did not want to examine. You can stay until tomorrow morning, I said. No. I made a promise. He carried the suitcase to the front door. Before leaving, he placed an envelope on the table. What is this? Something I should have given you years ago. I did not open it while he was there. Daniel stood beside the door and looked around the house. I know I cannot ask you to forgive me. You have asked before. I was asking because I wanted to feel better. That was selfish too. He opened the door. This time, I only want to say that I am sorry. You do not have to give me anything. Then he left. The house became silent again. I sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a legal document. The letter was written by hand. Rachel. When I left, I told myself I was following love. The truth is that I was running away from my own life. I wanted to feel younger. I wanted to feel important. Melissa admired the person I pretended to be. You knew the real person. You knew my fears, my mistakes, and my weaknesses. Instead of being thankful, I became angry that you could see me clearly. I blamed our marriage for my unhappiness. I blamed work, money, and daily problems. I did not blame myself. When I married Melissa, I thought I had proved that leaving was the right choice. I wanted everyone to see that I was happy. But I built my new life on a lie. Melissa and I did have good years. I will not pretend that every moment was bad. But we never trusted each other completely. She knew I had left one family for her. I knew she had helped me do it. We both feared that one day, the same thing would happen again. It did. She left me for another man. For months, I was angry with her. Then I understood that I had once done the same thing to you. Losing my house and my job was difficult. Losing Melissa hurt. But none of that was the true punishment. The true punishment was understanding what I had done to you, Sophie, and Chloe. I cannot return the years I took from you. I cannot repair our daughter's childhood. I cannot ask you to become my wife again. The document with this letter gives you my part of the small retirement account from my teaching years. It is not enough. Nothing will ever be enough. Please use it for yourself, the girls, or Emma. You gave me shelter when I had nothing. I will remember that for the rest of my life. Daniel. I read the letter twice. Then I looked at the document. The money was not large, but it was more than I expected. I called a lawyer the next morning and confirmed that the transfer was real. I could have refused it. Instead, I placed most of it into an education account for Emma. I divided the rest between Sophie and Chloe. I kept nothing for myself. A week later, Daniel found part-time work at a community center. He repaired furniture, taught basic skills, and helped older people with small jobs around their homes. He rented the room above the repair shop. He did not ask to return to my house. For several months, we saw each other only at family events. Daniel arrived on time. He listened more than he spoke. He stopped making promises and began doing simple things instead. He drove Chloe to the airport when her flight left early in the morning. He helped Sophie paint Emma's room. When I had to stay late at the shop, he delivered flowers to a customer without being asked. Sophie remained careful around him. But one Sunday, I saw her hand him a cup of coffee. It was a small action. Still, Daniel looked as if she had given him something precious. One afternoon, he came to the flower shop carrying a broken wooden box. "Do you remember this?" he asked. It was the box he had made for me during our first year of marriage. I used to keep letters and photographs inside it. One side had broken during a move many years earlier. "I found it in the garage before Melissa sold the house," he said. He had repaired the wood and cleaned the metal lock. "You can keep it," I told him. "It belongs to you." He placed it on the counter. Inside was one old photograph. Daniel and I were sitting on the porch of our first house. Sophie was a baby in my arms. We looked tired and happy. I touched the edge of the picture. "Why did you keep this?" Because even when I tried to forget who I had been, I could not forget that day. I closed the box. "Daniel, I need to ask you something. Anything. If Melissa had not left, would you ever have come back?" He did not answer quickly. I was glad he did not lie. "Probably not," he said at last. The truth hurt, but it also brought peace. "Thank you for being honest. I wish the answer were different. But it is not." He nodded. I did not return because I became a better man. I returned because my life fell apart. Yes. But I am trying to become better now. I can see that. Hope appeared in his eyes, and I knew I had to be clear. That does not mean we will become husband and wife again. The hope faded, but he remained calm. I understand. I forgive you, Daniel. He stared at me. I had imagined saying those words many times. I expected them to feel dramatic. They did not. They felt quiet. They felt like putting down a heavy bag after carrying it for too many years. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Why? Because I do not want to carry what you did into the rest of my life. He wiped his face. Can we start again? We cannot start again. I looked at the old photograph. But perhaps we can start something different. Daniel did not move back into my house. He did not place a ring on my finger. We did not pretend the past had disappeared. Instead, we became two people learning how to speak honestly after years of silence. Sometimes, we had coffee. Sometimes, we walked in the park with Emma. On Sunday evenings, he joined the family for dinner. Trust returned slowly. Not the blind trust one had given him when I was young. This trust had questions, limits, and open eyes. A year after Daniel first appeared at my door, he invited me to the community center. The children there had built small wooden boxes. Daniel had taught them how to measure, cut, and repair the wood. One boy held up a box with a crooked lid. "It is not perfect," he said. Daniel smiled. "It does not have to be perfect. It only has to be strong enough to hold something important." He looked at me when he said it. After the class, we walked outside. The sun was setting behind the buildings. The sky was orange and soft pink, like the evenings we once watched from our porch. Daniel stood beside me but did not touch my hand. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" he asked. "Is this a date?" "Only if you want it to be." I looked at his older face. I still remembered the man who had carried a suitcase out of my house. I also remembered the man who had returned with nothing and finally told the truth. "One dinner," I said. He smiled. "One dinner." I locked the flower shop early that evening. Before leaving, I looked at the repaired wooden box on my desk. The old photograph was still inside, but I had added a new one. It showed Sophie, Chloe, Emma, Daniel, and me standing together at Emma's birthday party. We were not the family we had once been. We were not completely healed. But we were no longer broken in the same places. I turned off the light and closed the door behind me. At dinner, Daniel chose a quiet table near the window. For several minutes, we studied the menu and avoided looking directly at each other. It felt strange to sit across from him without our daughters, lawyers, or old arguments between us. "You look nervous," I said. "I am." "Why?" "Because I do not want to ruin this." I put down the menu. "Then do not try to make it perfect." Daniel smiled. "That is difficult for me." "No," I said. "Pretending everything is perfect is easy for you. Being honest is the difficult part." His smile disappeared, but he did not become angry. "You are right." That evening, we did not speak only about the past. We talked about the community center, my flower shop, and Emma's new love for animals. Daniel told me he wanted to begin teaching again. "Not at a school," he explained. "Maybe evening classes for adults. Some people never learned how to repair things. Others just need confidence." That sounds good. I used to think a successful life had to look important. And now I think being useful may be more important. When dinner ended, Daniel walked me to my car. He stood a few steps away and placed his hands in his coat pockets. "May I call you tomorrow?" "Yes." "May I ask you to dinner again?" "You may ask." He laughed softly. "That is not the same as yes." "No, it is not." For the next several months, Daniel and I saw each other once or twice a week. Sometimes, we had lunch. Sometimes, we went to the park or visited a market outside the city. He never entered my house without asking. He never acted as if forgiveness had returned his old place in my life. One evening, we sat on my porch while rain fell beyond the roof. Daniel looked at the empty chair beside me. "I used to sit there," he said. "You did. I thought I would always sit there." "So did I." He turned toward me. "Do you ever wish we could erase everything that happened?" "No." My answer surprised him. "Why not?" "Because I would also erase the person I became." Daniel looked into the garden. "You became strong because I hurt you. I became strong because I chose to stand again. Do not take credit for that." He nodded slowly. "You are right." The following spring, Daniel found a small apartment closer to the community center. It had one bedroom, a narrow kitchen, and a balcony facing the street. He invited the whole family for dinner. The meal was simple, but he had prepared everything himself. Sophie arrived last. She stood near the door with Emma beside her and looked around the apartment. "This is nice," she said. Daniel seemed afraid to breathe. "Thank you." During dinner, Emma told a long story about a bird she had found near her school. Chloe laughed, Sophie asked questions, and Daniel listened with a smile. For one evening, no one spoke about the past. When we were ready to leave, Sophie stayed behind. I watched from the hallway as she handed Daniel a small framed photograph. It showed him holding her when she was a baby. "I found it in an old box," she said. Daniel held the frame carefully. "Thank you. I am still angry with you. I know. But I do not want to be angry forever." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I will wait as long as you need." Sophie looked at him for a moment. "Do not wait. Just keep showing up." Then she hugged him. It was not a long hug, but it was real. Outside, Sophie walked beside me toward our cars. "Are you getting back together with him?" she asked. "We are spending time together." That was not my question. I smiled. "You sound like me, Mom. I do not know what we are becoming. Do you still love him?" I looked back at Daniel's apartment window. "Yes," I said. "But love is not the only thing a relationship needs." Sophie nodded. "Do you trust him?" "More than before. Less than long ago." "Is that enough?" "I am still deciding." A few weeks later, Daniel asked me to visit the community center after class. The room was empty except for 2 chairs and a small table. On the table stood a vase filled with yellow roses. I looked at him. "You remembered." "I remember more than I used to show." He pulled out a chair for me. "I need to ask you something." My body became tense. Daniel noticed. "It is not a marriage proposal." I let out a breath. "Good." He smiled, but his hands were shaking. "I want us to have a real relationship again. Not the old one. I know that is gone." I looked at the yellow roses. "What would a real relationship mean to you?" "Honesty. Time. Patience. Separate homes, if that is what you need." "And if I never want to marry again?" "Then we do not marry." "What if I cannot give you the kind of trust one gave you before?" "I do not deserve that kind of trust." He sat across from me. "I am not asking you to forget what I did. I am asking whether I can keep walking beside you." I remained silent. Years earlier, Daniel had made a life-changing decision without allowing me to take part in it. Now, he was waiting for my answer without pushing me. "I have conditions," I said. "Tell me." "You do not move into my house." "All right." "You do not make promises you cannot keep." "All right." "If you are unhappy, confused, or afraid, you speak. You do not hide behind work or silence." "I will. And my life will not become smaller to make room for you." Daniel reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. "I would never ask that." "You did before. You simply did not say it." He lowered his hand. "You are right." I placed my hand over his. "We can try." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet." He laughed. "I will try not to." 2 more years passed. Daniel continued working at the community center and began teaching evening classes. I expanded the flower shop and hired 2 young women to help me. We did not remarry. People sometimes asked why. Some thought I was foolish for allowing Daniel back into my life. Others believed I should completely forget the past and become his wife again. But they did not live through our story. They did not feel the pain of the years he was gone. They also did not see the quiet work he did after returning. Forgiveness did not remove the past. It changed the power the past had over me. One summer evening, our family gathered in my garden for Emma's 10th birthday. Children ran across the grass. Chloe brought a large cake. Sophie hung small lights between the trees. Daniel stood beside the old garden gate. Years earlier, during the week he stayed in my guest room, he had repaired that gate. It still opened with a soft sound. Emma ran toward us. "Grandma, Grandpa, come take a picture." Daniel looked at me. "Are you ready?" "For a picture?" "For whatever this is." I followed his eyes toward our family. Sophie was laughing with Chloe. Emma was waving both hands. The garden was full of voices, food, and light. I thought of the night Daniel left with a suitcase. I thought of the night he returned with another one. The first suitcase had marked the end of our old life. The second had not brought that life back. It had opened the door to something more difficult and more honest. "I am ready," I said. Daniel stood beside me for the photograph. He did not hold me too tightly. He did not act as if I belonged to him. He simply placed one hand gently behind my back and waited. Emma counted to 3. The camera flashed. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Daniel helped me carry the empty plates into the kitchen. At the front door, he kissed my forehead. "I will call you tomorrow." "I know. Good night, Rachel." "Good night, Daniel." I watched him walk to his car. Then I closed the door and locked it. The house was quiet, but it no longer felt lonely. On my desk, beside the repaired wooden box, stood the new family photograph. In it, we were older. We had made mistakes. We had lost years we could never recover. But no one was pretending. Perhaps that was why the picture meant so much to me. Our family had not returned to the beginning. We had moved forward, carrying the truth with us. 3 years later, Daniel and I still lived in separate homes. Some people found that difficult to understand. They believed love had only 2 choices. Either we had to marry again, or we had to walk away forever. But our life did not fit into those simple choices. Daniel came to my house most weekends. He helped in the garden, cooked dinner, and sometimes stayed late to watch old films with me. Then he returned to his own apartment. I liked waking up alone in my house. I liked choosing how to spend my time. I had worked hard to build that freedom, and I was not ready to give it away. Daniel understood. One autumn morning, we drove to a lake outside the city. The leaves were red and gold, and the air was cool. We walked beside the water without speaking for a while. Then Daniel stopped. "Do you ever think about marrying me again?" he asked. I looked at him. "Sometimes." His eyes brightened, but I raised my hand. "That does not mean I want to do it." He gave a small laugh. "I understand." "Do you?" "I am trying." We sat on a wooden bench near the lake. Daniel watched a group of birds moving across the water. "I used to believe marriage meant someone would always be there," he said. "I thought I could make mistakes, leave, and still return to the same place. The same place no longer exists." "I know." He turned toward me. "But I am thankful you allowed me into your new life." I looked at the man beside me. His hair was almost completely gray now. There were deep lines around his eyes. He no longer looked like the young man from the cafe. I was not the same young woman either. "I did not forgive you because you deserved another chance," I said. Daniel listened quietly. "I forgave you because I deserved peace." He nodded. "And I let you stay because you finally learned that love is not only a feeling. It is what you do after the feeling becomes difficult. Daniel reached for my hand. This time, I let him hold it. That winter, the flower shop celebrated its 20th year. Sophie and Chloe planned a surprise party. They invited old customers, hospital workers, friends, and families I had helped over the years. Karen came early and brought a large cake. She stood beside me as people entered the shop. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked. "No. Did you ever imagine Daniel would be standing over there, fixing a table before your party?" I followed her eyes. Daniel was near the back of the shop. Emma held a box of tools while he repaired one loose leg. "Definitely not," I said. Karen smiled. "Are you happy?" I thought carefully before answering. "Yes. With him. With my life." Karen touched my shoulder. "That is the right answer." During the party, Sophie gave a short speech. She spoke about the years when the three of us worked together in the shop. She remembered doing homework behind the counter and helping me deliver flowers during busy holidays. Then she looked at me. "My mother taught us that a person can lose a marriage without losing herself," she said. The room became quiet. She also taught us that forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means choosing what the pain will become. I felt tears in my eyes. Across the room, Daniel lowered his head. After the party, he helped me clean. When everyone had left, we stood outside beneath the new shop sign. The street was empty, and a soft snow had begun to fall. "You built something beautiful," he said. "We built it," I answered. "The girls and I." Daniel nodded. "Yes. You did." There was no hurt in his voice. Only respect. He no longer tried to place himself inside every good part of my life. That change mattered more than any apology. A few months later, Daniel became ill. It was not serious, but he needed a small operation and several weeks of rest. Chloe wanted him to stay with her. Sophie offered to hire someone to help. But Daniel asked whether he could stay in my guest room. "The same room," he said with a nervous smile. "The same room," I answered. This time, he did not arrive with a broken suitcase. He brought one small bag and a plant for the kitchen window. During his recovery, I made soup and reminded him to take his medicine. He complained about being tired, and I told him to stop acting like a child. We argued over the television and laughed about how stubborn we had both become. One evening, I found him standing near the front door. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Checking the lock." I smiled. "You always did that." I remember. He returned to the living room and sat beside me. "Rachel?" "Yes. Thank you for taking care of me. You would do the same for me." I would. This time, I believed him. When Daniel was strong enough to return home, he packed his bag. At the door, he looked back toward the guest room. "The first time I stayed here, I thought I had lost everything." "You had lost a lot. But not everything." "No." He kissed my cheek and left. I watched his car disappear down the road, but the feeling was different from all those years before. He was not leaving me. He was simply going home. That evening, I opened the wooden box on my desk. Inside were photographs from many different years. Our wedding. Our daughters as children. The day Rachel's garden opened. Emma's birthdays. Daniel's first class at the community center. There was also a picture from the lake. Daniel and I sat on the bench with our hands together. I placed the newest photograph beside it. It showed the whole family at the flower shop anniversary. Sophie and Chloe stood on either side of me. Emma was in front, holding a yellow rose. Daniel stood at the edge of the group. Not outside the family. Not at its center. Simply part of it. I closed the box and looked around my quiet house. For many years, I had believed that a happy ending meant getting back everything I had lost. Now I knew better. Some things never return. Some wounds leave marks. Some relationships cannot become what they were before. But life can still grow around the broken places. Love can return in a different form. Trust can return with stronger walls. And forgiveness can open a door without giving away the whole house. Daniel and I never became the young couple we once were. We became something else. Two older people who had seen the worst in each other and finally chosen honesty. It was not a perfect ending. But it was ours. 5 years later, Emma asked me a question I had avoided for a long time. We were sitting behind the flower shop after closing. She was 15 now, tall and thoughtful, with the same serious eyes Sophie had at that age. "Grandma, why did you forgive Grandpa?" I stopped cutting the stems of the yellow roses in front of me. "Did someone tell you to ask that?" "No." She looked down at her hands. "I heard Mom and Aunt Chloe talking. They said he left all of you and married someone else." I placed the scissors on the table. "Yes. He did." "Then why did you let him come back?" The question sounded simple, but the answer was not. I turned toward the old wooden box on the shelf. I brought it to the table and opened it. Emma looked through the photographs. She saw Daniel and me when we were young. She saw her mother and aunt as little girls. She saw the flower shop, birthday parties, and family dinners. Then she found the photograph taken at her 10th birthday. Everyone was smiling. "Was everything okay by then?" she asked. "No." Her eyebrows lifted. "But you all look happy." We were happy in that moment. That does not mean everything before it disappeared. Emma touched the picture. "Did Grandpa deserve another chance?" "I do not know." "You still do not know?" I smiled. Life does not always give us clear answers. She waited for me to continue. "I did not open the door because your grandfather deserved it," I said. "I opened it because I wanted to be the kind of person who could help someone without losing herself." "Were you afraid?" "Yes." "That he would hurt you again?" "Yes." "Did he?" "Not in the same way." Emma looked confused. "People still disappoint each other," I explained. "Even after they change. Your grandfather forgot things. He became quiet when he was worried. Sometimes, he tried to avoid difficult conversations." "What did you do?" I reminded him that silence had already damaged our family once. "Did he listen?" "Most of the time." Emma laughed. "That sounds like Grandpa." "Yes, it does." The shop door opened, and Daniel walked in carrying 2 cups of tea. "I hope you are not telling her all my worst secrets," he said. Emma closed the box. "Only some of them." Daniel placed a cup in front of me. "What did I miss?" Emma asked why I forgave you. He became still. "That is a difficult question. What would your answer be?" Emma asked. Daniel sat across from us. "I would say your grandmother was kinder than I deserved." I shook my head. "That is not the whole answer." "No," he agreed. "It is not." He looked at Emma. "Your grandmother did not make my past disappear. She made me face it." "Was that hard?" "It was the hardest thing I ever did." "Harder than losing your second wife?" Daniel glanced at me, then answered honestly. "Yes." Emma looked surprised. "Losing that marriage made me feel lonely," he continued. "Facing what I had done made me understand why I was lonely." The room became quiet. Outside, rain began tapping against the windows. It sounded like the rain from the night he returned with the broken suitcase. Daniel reached for my hand. I let him hold it. Emma watched us. "So, are you married now?" she asked. "No," we answered together. She laughed. "You are both strange." "That is probably true," Daniel said. Emma placed the photographs back inside the box. "Do you love each other?" Daniel looked at me. I answered first. "Yes." "But not like before," he added. "Better than before?" Emma asked. I thought about it. "More honestly than before." Emma nodded as if she understood, though perhaps she would not fully understand until she was older. Before she left, she chose 1 yellow rose from the table. "Can I take this?" "Of course." After the door closed, Daniel and I remained in the quiet shop. You gave her a good answer, he said. So did you. He looked at the old box. Do you ever regret opening the door that night? I remembered the rain on his coat. I remembered the damaged suitcase and the tired man standing outside. No, I said. Do you regret not closing it? Sometimes. Daniel laughed softly. That sounds fair. I leaned against his shoulder. The rain continued outside, but the shop was warm. Nothing in our life had followed the path we expected. Our marriage had ended. Our family had changed. Our trust had broken and returned in a different shape. But when Daniel stood to check the front lock before we left, I watched him with a quiet feeling in my heart. Not the love of a young woman who believed forever was a promise no one could break. It was the love of someone who had learned that forever was not one long, perfect road. Sometimes, it was a door. Sometimes, it was a choice. And sometimes, it was allowing another person to walk beside you, without forgetting that you could still stand alone. Forgiveness does not always mean returning to the life we had before. Sometimes, it simply means letting go of the anger, while still protecting the person we have become. Would you open the door again for someone who once broke your heart, or are some choices too painful to forgive?